taking place in Brevard County, also the governor's race. The really only thing on the Democratic side is you got Matt O'Hearn, two gentlemen running for the Attorney General to run against Pam Bondi, and then, of course, Nana Rich versus Charlie Crist. The interesting fact about that race is how big will Nana Rich lose to Charlie Crist? So you will get unbiased election analysis here on all the races and what is going on. Now, if you want updates, again, continue to listen to Election Central coverage right here on 1300 WMEL or our friends at SpaceCoastDaily.com. Watch us live on the air at SpaceCoastDaily.com/election. Now, for those of you in Brevard, Vince Young, who's producing the show, Vince, you can also go to VoteBrevard.com. And what are we seeing for the elections also in statewide? They can also go to where?
They can go to, and let me get
wait, never mind. Just what? Just follow Space Coast Daily?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Space
Just go to
Coast Daily.
SpaceCoastDaily.com.
Well,
I'm sorry, man. I just want to make sure. I
should pull that up here.
Well, the reason why I'm saying is that have we found out, Matt O'Hearn, what if, and we can look at it right now, what was the final tally of election results here in Brevard County?
Well, we don't have the final tally. We're looking at absentees right now. You want to go through some of these?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So we'll start with Altman versus Miller. Not looking good for Monique right now after the absentees.
By the way, hold on, wait. How many, as far as voters right now, what do we have percentage-wise? Is it 10%?
I'm not sure. I'm just going to report what we have for the returns and absentee right now. So we have Altman with 71%, Miller with 28%.
Wow.
That's out of 17,000. That's a very large sample size.
She's not catching up.
Right. Collins versus Goodson. Goodson has a 67-32 lead. He'll take that. Street versus Tobias does not look good for Tim Street. Tobias is also up he's up 62-37.
Right.
And real quick, let me correct. Goodson was up 67-32. So
okay. Those
two House races both look like the incumbents are going to maintain their seat. Now, here's the one we all knew was going to be...
Are you guys calling the election at Space Coast Daily? Like the news groups?
Well,
Call it at 7:10.
All right, let's get to District 2. Okay, so...
Matt, we're on the 9, brother. Don't
rush. Well, people are waiting for results. So, okay, we got District 2. This is the one we all knew was going to be close. Barfield versus Hartman. We have 38% for Jim Barfield, 37% for Hartman. Ron Taylor coming in at 20%. And Sheridan with 4%. Now, you'll remember I told you the X factor in this. Ron Taylor is the Ross Perot of District 2.
Okay.
He's polling votes. We don't know from which base because, quite frankly, we.
By the way, you look at the
Barfield
versus Hartman. You're talking about a difference of only about 40 votes right now.
It is very tight.
Yeah, very tight. Go ahead, Matt. Keep finishing, brother.
Okay. All right. So in 4. Not to toot my own horn too much, but there is a surprise here, and I'll get to that in a bit. But the leader right now, Kurt Smith at 28. We expected that. He's holding on with 28% with the lead above Greg Jones, who currently has 17.23%,
right,
followed by Bill Klein. And I think this gets back to he's got a high position at Eastern Florida State College. He's well known in the community. He also has a police and fire background.
And ran some good ads on TV.
Right, and he had a very effective sign. I want to mention that at the polls today, he actually had what I would call a resume sign.
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't just his name and the cliche words. He had a bullet list of his background, which included his experience in fire.
Big signs, like 6x10, something like that?
The biggest sign you'd see pulling up. It was like 8 feet tall.
Okay.
Wow.
And it showed him being a Vietnam veteran, worked in fire, worked in police. So he's resonating with groups just like that as soon as they walk in. I think that's why he's doing so well.
May I interrupt you for a quick question? Well, I'm getting questions here on Facebook and other questions by the audience. These numbers are low, but I mean, we've had 35,000. I mean, I would not, did not Lori Scott, is it not the supervisor? And again, our friends online, also we have consultants online that have worked for the supervisor elections in a lot of these counties. Did they not already count these ballots, or they just don't count them until the night of, I mean, you've had results coming in through the absentees, but they don't count them until 7 o'clock the night of election?
I believe they already I believe they're counted first. Now, when exactly they're I should say that I know they're counted first. I don't recall exactly when they counted, but they are actually counted first because
I believe they're counted during the day because I've been seeing photos all day long of the canvassing.
But if we had 35,000, why are only 5 being okay, maybe it's just a district. Never mind. Maybe it's just a district. A smaller district has smaller numbers.
Because it's being
okay
apportioned by district. So the rumor, just to dispel the rumor, there's a rumor that they only count absentees if it's a close race at the end. That's not true.
You got to count provisionals.
No,
all right, continue here, Matt O'Hearn from Space Coast Daily.
And then we're moving on, and after this, you can take the judges if you want. Canaveral Port Authority. Wayne Justice. This could be an upset. He has a 13% lead. That's with all the absentees in. That's 8,954. That percentage should probably hold. Don't you
Yeah, it
agree?
looks like he may hold.
Yeah.
So
that's an upset in the port race.
the judicial races, as of right now, George Polk is at 46%. Now, again, this is Brevard. This is not including Seminole, which Vince will give us a little update here in a little bit. And, of course, SpaceCoastDaily.com, where, of course, you can watch us live on the air, is that Polk may end up getting 50% on this one here. Also, you look at the Judicial 18, Robin Lemonatis is running away with this in Brevard County. She's up 62-37. There's no way Brooke Deritani is going to make this up, Goldfarb. It's just impossible. You look at the Circuit Court Judge, Susan Stacy's at 43%. Mitch Krause is at 36%. Donna Gournier is at 20%. Again, this is in Brevard County as of right now, unless numbers change. Matt O'Hearn, this looks like that's going to go to the general, correct?
Correct, yes.
Let's look at Circuit Court Judge 18. We had said previously that the individual to look out, you and I have talked about this, was Nancy Maloney. I said Nancy Maloney may surprise a few people, and it looks as of right now, it's John Moser's at 43%, Nancy Maloney's at 34%, and Maurice Arcadier is at 22%. The county court judge, Michelle Baker, it's a done.
I'm actually surprised. Real quick, I'm surprised by that one. I thought Simpson was going to have a much closer race in that one.
Yeah, I did too. But Baker, I think Baker was going to pull this off. She's going to win that. There's no way. I mean, it's a 12,000 deficit lead. It's no way that Ms. Simpson's going to win that. And Benjamin Garagazola, the incumbent judge, at 65-34. There is no way Oscar Hodising's going to pick this up. By the way, let me introduce everybody again. This is the election night coverage. As we do this, it's legendary here on the legendary 1300 WMEL. Our good friends, and thanks to Matt O'Hearn and I are very good buddies. Thanks to Tom Palermo and Giles Malone and the rest of this, and John and our other guys producing on the TV side. The background, Matt O'Hearn from Space Coast Daily. He's their main political editor, giving us a lot of numbers. If you want further information on the results, go to spacecoastdaily.com, spacecoastdaily.com. While you're there, go to spacecoastdaily.com/elections, and you can watch us live on the air, giving you upfront, faster analysis than you'll get it anywhere else. Go ahead, Matt.
That's right. So let's move down to school board. We got through all the judges, correct?
Yep.
Okay. In Titusville's district, that's District 1.
Right.
Misty Belford up 56% to 43. That's let's see, out of 7,000 votes. I'm not sure I'm comfortable calling that one.
That's 1,000 votes right there. Are we not? 4,000? That's 1,000 votes. I mean, it looks like Belford could win that one.
You think that one's safe to call?
It probably is. I mean, it's District 1. It's not a big district. I think right now it's safe to call that one there.
Okay. District 2, we have John Craig. He's got...
Look at Keith Yarbrough.
I told you. Now, he resonated with conservatives because he was the one who vowed not to vote for the tax increase.
And he's also, is he not a black independent, registered independent, or is he a Democrat?
I'm not sure what his party registration is. I'm pretty sure he's not a Republican.
But he's gotten people out there to vote for him.
Right.
On that one.
Let's see. In District 5, this really doesn't come as much of a surprise here. It was really only a matter of margin for Ziegler.
Yeah.
He's got 47%. He has that wrapped up.
What does this say about incumbents like Dean Padarakis and other individuals? I mean, Matt, with all due respect, Andy Ziegler, who ran a good campaign, may not be the most conservative of voters, but he ran a good campaign. There are some people that are complaining. We got people that are just, it's like tourism season, that are just jumping in. They know they can't win here. But I will say that a lot of voters want to see like a buffet style. They want to see a choice. And I think you've had a decent choice of candidates running this year. It may not be to the liking of some of us in the media. It may not be the liking of the most experienced, but at least you've had a choice.
Right. I mean, you always want to see multiple options out there, especially with school board. I think one of the reasons you see people jump in is just because gets very emotional when you're talking about that level, that close to home. People get really upset about what happens, with their kids in their classrooms, and that's why you see people jump in.
Now, as of right now, it's 11%. I mean, as they are reporting. So some of these races we can go ahead and call right now, but there's still some, for example, in Seminole that affect Brevard. So we will still call some of these. Matt O'Hearn, can we take a few minutes for the audience out here?
Can I give go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to give a quick update. Barfield and Hartman are now at 37 and 37, and we are talking, folks, listen to this, 1,814 for Barfield. Hartman, 1811. We're talking, wait a minute, I can't be reading this right. It's down to a
That's a 3-vote.
three-vote difference,
Yeah.
folks.
Yeah.
I think we'll keep an eye on this one. This is clearly
We're not
the
gonna
race
call
to
this one
watch.
right now.
No way. That's the one's going to go for a while.
Look at the before I get to the election turnout here, the County Commission District 4. Something has to be said about the Kurt Smith campaign when a lot of the other guys in this, now this is a Republican race right here, a lot of these guys ran as conservatives. Greg Jones ran as a moderate out there, and Kurt Smith seems to be getting a substantial a return. What was the downfall with some of these other candidates in this race?
Some of the other candidates, well, I think just, let's start off with guys like Dave Armstrong. I don't think he ever put his face enough.
Didn't get off the ground.
Didn't get off the ground. Never got in front of enough faces. You didn't see. I don't think I saw any commercials for him. Did you?
No, just some radio. That was it.
Lacey. He's one of those guys. He's well known within party activists, but that may have been the limit of his reach. Great guy. I mean, he's a really nice guy, but he just didn't have.
Let me ask this question here. Little analysis. If several of these guys had not been in this race, and it was between Jones and Smith,
I still think Smith wins.
I still think. I mean, a lot of these guys are conservatives.
I actually think
Kurt Smith ran as a conservative. Greg Jones is known as the moderate in this race. So my question is were these votes gone for Smith or gone for Greg Jones?
No, I think Smith would be winning by more if it wasn't for these other guys.
What about in District 2? Would these votes have gone for Michael Hartman, or would these votes have gone for Jim Barfield?
It's not. It's just too hard to tell because you're comparing 4 and 7. You know what I mean? I mean, you look at District 4. It's just impossible for anyone to pull away. But the thing about Jones is you have to remember this guy, this candidate, essentially. I don't want to say he endorsed All Aboard Florida, but he brought them in to defend.
Who did? Greg Jones?
Jones, correct.
Yeah. That has been an issue. All Aboard Florida, the train that's coming down.
Yeah. And
some people are like, hey, we stayed away from this.
Yeah.
Do you think Greg Jones has been hurt by All Aboard Florida?
Absolutely. I think he has a fine resume, but when you're talking about major issues, I would say that's in the top 3.
There were also some mailers out there against Greg Jones, how he supported red light cameras, how he supported supporting the sales tax increase in 2012, also this year's 2014. Is that a precursor, Matt O'Hearn, of what may happen with the sales tax being supported in Brevard County? What does that say, do you think, in November?
Yeah, I think it's so hard to forecast right now with the taxes, though, because you have to remember you're going to have the Democrat and independent vote.
Let's talk about the election turnout. For example, let's go back to the days. Let's go to 2000 and let's go to 2010. Let's go back. The voter turnout in 2010 in the primary election, August the 24th, was about 27%. Total ballots casted at 97,000. Now let's remember. Can we keep going until 7:30? Is that okay, Vince?
Okay, I got another update on District 2.
All right, go ahead.
Barfield is now up by 4%, but that's still, if we're talking about less than 300 votes.
Yeah, you've only got about 15% voter turnout, so we'll be talking about this for the next hour.
Well, I know. I just want to give.
No, that's fine. We'll get to that in a moment. Now, again, let's look at 2010, everybody. The total ballots casted was 27%. Let's stay on this right now. 27% in Brevard County. That's 97,000. Now, remember, you had a huge governor's primary there on both sides. You had a Senate election that took place. You also had the Attorney General. And now let's go, when we look at the results, let's go 2 years later. Let's look at 2012, where the numbers were at 86,000. Again, that's practically, Matt O'Hearn, a 10,000 vote drop. Now let's look at Brevard County. If we can pull this right up here, on 2014, the ballots casted, as of right now, 54. I mean, you look at the numbers; it's like it keeps going down every year. What does this say? Is this because voters are Is this because voters are just not impressed or the apathetic, or is this because the candidates just haven't done a good enough job to get the voters out there?
It's a little bit of both, but you look at just disillusionment with government and institutions overall right now. Government trust is at an all-time low. I think that's why you're seeing this. The people who are getting out there are the political junkies like you and me.
Right.
After that, you have some average middle-of-the-road voters, but good example, one of my friends, he's voted in every single election. He was ultimate Republican super voter. He texted me today. He lives over in the Gulf Coast now,
Right.
and he said he's not voting until November. He said I just can't get excited about it anymore because he feels like
This is
doesn't
the
make a
reason why
difference.
you need to have coffee and donuts at the election cycles, the polling
No,
places.
I'd like to say, even I don't necessarily blame the public, though. I mean, if you look at our capitals, especially Washington, D.C., you see a lot of just career politicians who sit up there and just seem like they're never going to really change anything. On that note, talking about people who've been labeled as career politicians in a certain race, we've heard Street use that against Tobias.
Right.
That race is tightening now. Let's see there. It's 56-43. And that's 4,644 for Tobias and 3,549 in for Street.
Wow.
So
That-
we're looking at the Tim Street. Let me get the again. You can go to spacecoastdaily.com to find out these results going on right now as we're reporting this all live here on 1300 WMEL. Also from our good friends at spacecoastdaily.com, spacecoastdaily.com/elections. You can see us live on the air. Kevin Derby from the Sunshine State News is going to join us. I think Mike Sinan from Fox News 35. You've got Brevard County elections. Did you see any Brevard County people coming out in the Nan Rich versus Charlie Crist race? That was very quiet in Brevard County.
I didn't see any signs for them.
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
Nothing going on. What do you think about the turnout about this?
I think Democrats just sat at home, most of them.
What's going to be interesting about these numbers is Democrats versus Republicans. Democrats really did not have anybody in this race this year, but we'll see the voter turnout of how they voted in the non-partisan races out there, and also
Right.
the NPAs, the non-party
I
affiliations.
just want to give a quick update. Wayne Justice, his lead is holding at 15%. That's with 14,000 votes in. He's got a 2,000 vote lead. I think we agree. We can call that for Justice.
Yeah, let me look at these numbers. We're looking at again. This is with well, let me see. With it's 16% in. I think we can do that.
16%.
This is what
So
this is
Justice-
the Port Authority. There is no way Frank Sullivan's making that up.
No. So Justice wins the Port Commission District 3.
Yep. Right now, with again 15%. What are we at now, Matt O'Hearn?
We're actually at
Basically,
16.29% so far.
16.9.
29. I mean, whatever.
16.29.
Yeah.
Barfield is up against the lead.
It's-
That's
that's the
jumped
voter
up. Those
turnout,
numbers
by
can
the
still
way.
move around.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. So
that's-
Vincent,
That's 16.25. That is the voter
What's that?
turnout. Right now we
I didn't
have.
hear you. Go ahead, Vince. What were you saying?
I said the voter turnout is 16.25%. The precincts reported so far 77 out of 173. So we're
Yeah, that's what.
almost halfway
okay,
done.
because see, they're not giving us those percentages on the screen here. So
Well, it says voter turnout. What is that
no, but
supposed to mean? then?
that's go
That's
ahead.
the
What Vince-
percentage of voters that cast ballots today versus the number of people that are registered.
Yeah,
to vote.
well,
Oh,
well,
okay.
Wait.
Look, right
Well,
here.
yeah,
That
hold on,
number's-
wait. But
that
those numbers.
number's
No,
gonna keep
hold on, wait.
going
But
up.
Vince, those numbers keep going up every 10, 20 minutes.
Yes, because as
Which means
they
they're gonna
add
go up a lot
ballots
more.
cast, the voter turnout is going to keep going up. It's looking like, based on the numbers that I saw at 7 o'clock, the turnout looked like it was going to be right around 22%.
So
Okay.
it's low.
Yes.
It is.
which is good for the challengers like Wayne Justice and Street. That could bode well
Right.
for Street.
Vince, can you pull up the Seminole County numbers as well?
The Seminole County numbers look very, very similar to the Brevard County numbers.
Yeah, I mean, again,
only
our friends over at
slight
Space.
differences here and there, but
Yeah,
it's pretty
all right.
much mirror image of Brevard.
Okay, if that changes, let us know.
I will.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm looking at those.
You're doing a
and
great job, Vince.
Thank you.
Matt O'Hearn from SpaceCoastDaily.com. You
Yep.
can watch us live on the air at SpaceCoastDaily.com/elections. A lot of these races, there's a thing called provisional ballots. A provisional ballot means that, and this is where it gets a little creepy, not creepy, but weird here in a weird way, not sound redundant, that, hey, I got my absentee, but I don't have my ID, and I want to vote today, but I didn't turn in my absentee. Then they have you fill out a form that you claim who you claim to be. And then if that takes place, they need to count those. That's what's happening. But the provisional ballots, if I'm not mistaken, Matt O'Hearn, it's only been like less than 100 out there. So, I mean,
69 as of 7:20 p.m. 69 provisional ballots.
so the bottom line is that you're not going to be able to cry out voter fraud. You're not going to be able to pull that. Now, there is a question when you look at the next several days of the analysis. For example, Vince, Space Coast Daily, as you know, had it pulled up here, is that you look at the number of voters that voted in the absentee, the number of voters that voted in early voting versus Election Day. And those numbers are what's going to be very interesting to find out, okay, how well did this guy do in Brevard on the absentee compared to the people that came out and voted on Election Day? You know what I'm saying? When you break down those numbers.
Right. Let's take a look at the latest numbers here. Sorry, there's a lot.
They're not
coming
going
in.
anywhere right now, bro. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Well, we get an update of what about every Vince? How often are these updates coming in?
Every 30
About
seconds.
every 3 minutes.
Every 3 minutes. Well,
is how often
you just
the
had
page
about a
refreshes.
nice 3-minute monologue there, so I just figured I'd check. Let's see here.
Precincts reported, by the way, 103 out of 173. So
Okay,
just
so yeah,
70
we just had-
precincts
This
left.
thing could be. Do you
Okay,
think this
so
thing could be
we
done by
just-
8?
It
Yeah,
could
it
be.
could be.
It could be.
All right.
So we just had an update. Let's take a look here. We have looks like Tobias still has a 13-point edge on Street. Barfield now has a 3% lead with less than 300 more than Hartman.
Right.
But that has been trending Barfield for, the past 20 minutes or so. Then again, we don't know which precincts are going to be. I mean, that's such a hard district to call.
What do you think if Sheridan and Taylor were not in this race? What do you think? Would those votes, Monday morning court, would they go on Barfield or Hartman? It still would be close, would it not, do you think?
I think we'd still be looking at, because you look right now, Sheridan essentially has 5, and then Taylor. See, I think Taylor is pretty much half and half. I think half
Yeah.
those guys go to Barfield, half of them go to
Why?
Hartman.
What brought Taylor in this race in the District 2? What made him like the Ross Perot? What made him stand
Well, because
out?
his whole campaign was, I'm all for the little guy, I'm all for the small business, and I'm not. He tried to portray himself as just your regular old guy, Joe Sixpack, and he spent a good amount of money. He actually had the best web advertising as well, which
Right.
that gets often overlooked so much, especially in local races. He was running what are called remarketing ads and cookie
Right.
ads. So let's say you go visit his site. Well, then the rest of the time you go on the web, anytime you're on another site that can run those ads, you see vote Ron Taylor, vote Ron Taylor. And that might sound, might think that doesn't make a difference, but that keeps his name in front of people's minds, builds up his name recognition. And, he had a good ground game, too. So, and I thought he would get 20 to 25.
Listen, I got to take a break. There's major development in the school board member District 2. We'll get those information back to you on the other side of the break. This is Election Coverage Central with our partners at spacecoastdaily.com/election right here on WMEL.
Paul.
WMEL 1300 Cocoa Beach, Melbourne, Palm Bay. Nominated Business of the Year by the Cocoa Beach Regional Chamber of Commerce.
NBC News Radio, I'm Melissa Rayberger. New revelations have come to light in the fight against Islamic State militants.
An American aid worker is among those being held by the militants in Syria, and that a Minnesota man, Douglas MacArthur McCain, was killed in the fighting within Syria. He had apparently joined the ISIS militia. State Department spokeswoman Jen Psaki.
We are in contact with family and are providing all possible consular assistance.
An aspiring rapper, the 33-year-old McCain had changed his social media name to Diwali, the slave of Allah. Bob Costantini, NBC News Radio, the White House.
Israel and Hamas have agreed to an open-ended ceasefire. The action puts a halt to a 7-week war that killed more than 2,200 people. The State Department calls the ceasefire an opportunity, not a certainty. The S&P 500 closed above 2,000 for the first time. Stocks pushed higher following some encouraging economic news, including a surge in consumer confidence. The Dow rose 29 points as the Nasdaq finished 13 points higher. This is NBC News Radio.
AM 1300 WMEL.
WMEL weather for the Space and Treasure Coast tonight. 20% chance of showers, low 78, northeast wind gusting to 20 miles per hour. Wednesday, mostly sunny, 20% chance of showers, high 88. Wednesday night, partly cloudy, low 77. It'll be mostly sunny on Thursday with a 20% chance of showers and thunderstorms, the high 89. Be listening for Dennis Miller 1 to 4 a.m. weekdays on AM 1300 WMEL and also online worldwide at 1300WMEL.com.
It's food as good as your mother would make at Pani Vino Italian Restaurant. And this Sunday, make it a special Sunday with the fabulous and award-winning Sunday Buffet at Pani Vino Italian Restaurant. Take the family and enjoy a buffet that only Pani Vino could cook for you. Enjoy delicious Italian favorites, lasagna, manicotti, raviola, chicken and veal parmigiana, spaghetti, soup and salad. And don't forget, after your meal, enjoy delicious Bendi coffee and desserts and pastries made from scratch right there at Pani Vino. Don't forget the deli with imported meat and cheese from Italy, plus a great assortment of imported Italian wine. There's so much to feast your taste buds on this Sunday and every day at Pani Vino. Sunday buffet hours 11 to 3. Pani Vino Italian Restaurant, next to the premier movie theaters on Hibiscus. It's food as good as your mother would make at Pani Vino Italian Restaurant.
Last time on the Dennis Miller Show.
I'll put it out there. I know it puts me in harm's way as far as many people in the country. I think it's good when parents stick with their kids. There, I've said it. It's just so funny to me that the new notion that can get you completely pilloried. All you have to do is say out loud, I by and large think parents and children should stick together regardless of where the border is.
How dare you!
Exactly.
It's Dennis Miller, overnights 1 to 4 a.m. on AM 1300.
WMEL.
All right. It is Election Central coverage right here on 1300 WMEL. As we are broadcasting live, we may be with you all the way to 9 o'clock. These numbers may be done by 8 o'clock. We'll have election analysis coming up here in just a few moments. I think is our good buddy, if Mike Senner from Fox News 35 can do it, we'll talk with him in just a little bit. Also, Kevin Derby from SunshineStateNews.com will probably join us here. And also, our good friends, our partners, as we do every day, SpaceCoastDaily.com, SpaceCoastDaily.com. Our good friends Matt O'Hearn, political editor. You can also watch us live on the air at spacecoastdaily.com/election. What are we seeing right now? What is surprising about some of these results here, Matt O'Hearn?
Surprising, I would say, biggest one so far. Nothing's really thrown me for a curve so far. I mean, we knew which ones were going to be close. By the way, let me give this update. Street is now within 11 points.
However,
11%, I should say, but that one's almost done, isn't it, Vince?
Yes, there is only one precinct left to
wow.
report in that race.
And
which race is that?
He would have
That's Tim Street and John Tobias.
And
yeah,
he would
John
have to.
Tobias.
He would have to get. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I need to scroll one up. So Street would have to gain over 1,100.
And he's not going to do that in one precinct.
Yeah. So I should say, for Street, unfortunate for his campaign, he's going to come up just short against Tobias.
Let me ask you.
Tobias ekes another one out.
Let me ask you a quick question. The old days, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, even if you were an incumbent, never gave you any money. You were on your own.
Not now.
Not now. That's changed. I mean, and Steve Christofoli, who I'd like, who is your next House Speaker, and let's be honest. I mean, we're giving analysis here, Matt O'Hearn. If it was not pumping another $50,000 into John Tobias' campaign, Tim Street would have won this race, I think.
I think it came down to TV ads.
I think it came down to TV ads. I agree with that.
Tobias was all over Fox News, and even though the ads really didn't have much to do with the actual state-level politics, that makes an impact. And you got to give Tim Street incredible credit, though. I mean,
nobody knew who he was.
Nobody knew who he was. He put so much heart and hustle into this campaign, and my hat's off to him. But you also got to congratulate Tobias. I mean, he's managed to win. Yeah. What is this? His fourth general now. So, primary. So, of course, he'll go on to win the general, and he'll be back in Tallahassee.
Do you think if Monique Miller had jumped in a year earlier, I think it would not have changed the outcome. It looks like we can call it out. That Alton's going to win big time. But do you think?
I disagree. I think she could have won if she'd gotten in earlier.
I don't know about winning. I think she would have tightened it up. But I mean, when you look at the election,
yeah, you might be right. It's a 30.
But hold on for a second.
Spread.
You say that all aboard Florida hurt Greg Jones. I'll go with you on that one. I say there's a lot of things that hurt Greg Jones. But let's go with all aboard Florida.
Okay. And here's.
But how come it didn't hurt Thad Altman?
Because messaging. You look at
I agree.
You look at Jones, and he essentially hosted a forum for all aboard to defend themselves, whereas Altman at least went out and said, "Hey, I'm trying to stop all aboard Florida." Miller portrayed him as pro all aboard Florida, and the argument could be made that he was, and a lot of people automatically tie that in because he supported high-speed rail. But if you look at since July, late June, Altman's been going around, and he even asked Attorney General Pam Bondi, who was on with us earlier, to look into the contract. So he effectively portrayed himself as anti-all aboard, and that never stuck with him. So Miller was left to attacking his things such as his gun record, which is hard to do when Altman has the NRA endorsement.
One of the things that I've said for the last quite a few months, that if the Street campaign, and we both have our friend, I like Tim Street, he's a dear friend of mine, but having said that, I think if they would have done a comparison piece, which they did, but a stronger comparison piece, putting in the same picture of Charlie Crist with John Tobias, I think that would have changed a lot of votes out there. That was not done. You think that might have made a difference?
Oh, absolutely. I think that would have been very key.
And Monique Miller's campaign possibly could have done the same thing with Thad Altman, and they didn't do it as well there either. It was too busy. It was too busy focusing on the train, and there were more important issues than just that daggum train.
No, but I'll give Miller credit on that, though. If you heard some of her radio ads, she did compare him directly to Crist, and she talked about how he didn't endorse Rubio until Crist left.
Radio's good, but not a lot of people can follow it.
That's right.
But the direct mail piece.
I'm just saying she made the effort to make the Crist comparison.
I'm just saying that the candidates could have done a better job.
Yes.
On some of these, and it just didn't happen.
Okay, let's look at going back to the Barfield-Hartman race in District 2. I've got to scroll down here because the supervisor of election site is...
And I'm just being totally honest. I mean, Vince, you see the same thing? I mean, I think association with Charlie Crist in a Republican primary would have done you some damage.
I think so, too.
We're down to one precinct, I believe.
And what district are we looking at?
Barfield versus Hartman. It's coming down to the last precinct.
Is this the big one?
Let me just double-check here.
Barfield now leads by a little over 300 votes.
There are 2 precincts left. I apologize. There are 2 precincts. Vince, can you check this over with me to make sure I'm not missing one? But Precinct 230 and Precinct 225 are left?
I'm checking that right now. Yes, 225, still no report from that precinct, and 230, no report from that precinct. So we're just waiting on those two in the District 2 race.
You have full permission to tell Ed and I to be quiet. Give us an update on that.
No, that's fine.
By the way, Mike Sinan is on hold as well.
All right, let's go to our good friend Mike Sinan from Fox News 35 out of Orlando. Mike, low voter turnout throughout the whole state. Is that what you're seeing?
19.52 that you've got there is almost exactly the same as in both Orange and Seminole. And I got to tell you, it's just pitiful. I mean, I don't know any other way to describe it. I don't know any kind of way to sugarcoat it. I don't know how to soothe anyone's feelings by saying, well, this is just a primary and it's not that important and, there's no big names on the ballot. There's no presidential race. It's just a primary. None of that stuff is applicable. 19% turnout for any election is pitiful, and it's a joke. And you want to blame disenfranchisement or the system or who's on the ballot. These voters need to look at themselves in the mirror and say, why are we not showing up? Why are we not exercising our rights as citizens? And then when we have the types of problems that we have, maybe we all need to take a moment and look in the mirror and say that's why.
Mike Sinan from Fox News 35 here on Election Coverage Central. Our good friends at SpaceCoastDaily.com. Political editor also, Matt O'Hearn, is with us. You can watch us live on the air at SpaceCoastDaily.com, SpaceCoastDaily.com/election. Mike, we'll get to all this in a moment. Mike, when you look at Charlie Crist is blowing away Nana Rich on the Democratic side. Are you surprised that those numbers are that big of a spread?
No, not really. I mean, look, Democrats have been out of the mansion for so long, they're desperate to win. And while they may not agree philosophically with Charlie Crist, he said the right things in the primary, and so you got to be thinking to yourself, if you're a Democrat at this point, this guy can win. I need somebody who can win. And if you've seen the polling, I mean, Nan Rich hasn't even come close to Governor Scott in polling. So I think Democrats, in this instance, are just taking their realistic best shot and going with Charlie.
What do you think that this is going to be a precursor for the November election, or can we not read anything from the primary what may happen in November?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think it gives Charlie Crist some momentum. I mean, if he had locked horns and say it was 55-45, and he had come out of that primary, he would spend 2 weeks answering questions about why he didn't just destroy Nan Rich in the primary. So I think, Charlie Crist enters the general election with some momentum, and I think it is an affirmation of, again, the Democrats' desire to win. Other than that, I mean, you can only take so much out of an election where 19% turnout. I mean, you know, both sales tax referendums, Orange and Volusia for the schools, are doing well. So that tells me that some of these messages that were being sent to parents of school-aged children were effective. And then just in my sort of hanging out at the polling place today, and this is not scientific by any means because I was only at one polling location, but I mean almost every person that I talked to coming out of that election was a super voter. You know, what race brought you to the polls today? A couple of them said governor, a couple of them said sales tax, but the vast majority of them said, oh, I'll vote in every election.
Wow. Mike Sonnen from Fox News 35 here partnering up with us today and on election coverage and also with SpaceCoastDaily.com. I had the Attorney General on tonight. She was on my earlier broadcasting around 5:30 on the Ed Dean radio show about this upcoming. She, has some reason why, does not believe. Now I think it's going to pass, but the question is does it get 60%? As of now, the marijuana is going to get 60+%. You would agree?
Yeah, I don't doubt that in the least bit. The polling has overwhelmingly shown that it will, and she pledged to me, and I don't know if she said the same thing to you on your show today, but she pledged to me that just like the way she is trying to protect the rights of marriage being only between a man and a woman because that's in Florida's Constitution, she said she's going to do the exact same thing if the medical marijuana issue passes. That she will defend it because it's in the Constitution and that's her job.
All right, my good friend Mike Sonnen from Fox News 35. I know you have a busy night. Thanks for taking the time to come out here.
Hey, you got it.
All right. Matt O'Hearn, political editor from Space Coast Daily. Again, SpaceCoastDaily.com, SpaceCoastDaily.com/election. You can watch us live on the air. What are we seeing right now here, Matt?
Just to give an update, Vince, can you confirm this with me that John Craig and School Board District 2 did not crack 50%?
John Craig and School
Yarborough.
Board. I just scrolled right past it. There we go. John, and my page is refreshing. Hang on. Okay, John Craig is at 47%, so he is short of the 50% needed to avoid a runoff. But right now, John Craig in the lead in that race, and he would face off with Keith Yarborough.
I'm not seeing
in November.
I'm not seeing any precincts left.
Well,
I take that back. There's one precinct.
But don't they have it done by color? I mean, if it's blue, if it's green, it's done.
It's like Homeland Security. I feel like I'm looking at the Homeland Security thing here. Okay.
Yeah, there's.
Do you know what's going to be interesting,
one unreported
Matt,
precinct
about this? As I said, about precursor to November, is many of these guys are going to have to talking about the upcoming proposed sales tax, which is what is it, a quarter or a half-cent penny?
It's half-cent.
It's a half-cent sales tax.
Half-cent sales tax. It did not pass 2 years ago when it should have passed, by the way, with the big turnout with Obama being on the ballot. The question is Matt, I'm going to go with you. Does it have any legs to pass in November this year?
Oh, yeah. It has legs to pass because you're going to have Democrats turning out for marijuana and for Charlie Crist.
Okay, that's a good analysis. Vince, what do you think?
I think it's going to pass the 60%.
It should pass by what just Matt brought up about the extra amenities, the extra associations of the dock stamps, the marijuana debate. I think that should help push it over.
Well, what I've been noticing is just a general idea that when you bring up the idea that this is a backdoor to legalizing drugs, a lot of people are looking at that and saying, "Oh, really? Good." And that's actually, I think that's making people want to vote for this. I think that strategy may be backfiring.
I
think for marijuana, yes, not hard drugs. Yeah.
Not for hard drugs, no, but for marijuana.
Yeah, but you want to know something?
If you were
to paint an ad that talked about all the garbage you have to go through to get the legalization of medical marijuana, young people didn't. I mean, even though the majority of people that signed these petitions, by the way, were older people, 50 and over. Now, it wasn't young people. And young people, I mean, but it's portrayed as to go after young people, and I understand that. If you sat back and said, yeah, you got to go to the doctor, it's going to be 2 hours. I mean, it could take you 2-3 weeks. You know, it's kind of like applying for college sometimes. What a pain.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I don't think that's going to make people who would have voted for it change their mind to vote against it. They're going to say, well, it's better than nothing, and they'll still vote for it, even if they think it's not ideal.
Do you want to do a quick update, even though we've mentioned this before? We may have some people just now tuning in.
Go ahead.
Just so people are aware, Barfield, and in District 2 County Commissioner, Barfield currently has 39.69%. Hartman has 36.09%. That's 3,500. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I'm looking at. Yep, that's right. That's right. So we got.
That's just over 300 votes separating Barfield and Hartman.
Right, and there are 2 precincts left. Once those go final, we will immediately give you the result.
Unless there is an area where Michael Hartman was winning big time, I don't think those numbers can be made up.
Well, you're talking about 2 precincts, though, where he could have had a.
That's what I just pointed out.
Let's
take.
Let's take a look at some of the. Let's see if he had a big one in any of these. I'm looking.
I mean, Kiwanis Park, maybe.
He would have to. He didn't really ever have. Let's see. Now we're looking at margins of.
And by the way,
the
Matt,
precincts that Hartman won, it was usually by relatively small margins. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure 2 precincts is going to be enough. For
yeah, it's
Hartman
not.
to
That's what I'm
overcome
telling
that
you.
gap.
It's not going to be enough.
It's not going to be enough. So I think we can call that for Barfield.
I think you can call that Barfield, and I think you can thank Wayne Ivey.
That's what. Yeah, I mean, remember what I'm not trying to sound like a know-it-all, but I do think you could definitely credit
One of the
3% to Wayne Ivey endorsement.
One of the things that we have been reporting was that, and I think you're right. I think the endorsement, because we had pollsters who were calling me up off the air saying half the people still don't know who to vote for. I think the endorsements do help out. I think, for example, you are going to see a runoff between Susan Stacy and Mitch Krause for judge. And predominantly one of the reasons why that was is because Susan had a lot of establishment from the Republicans, and Mitch didn't run on an endorsements. And that's fine. Congratulations to Susan. And a lot of these guys where Wayne didn't come and endorse, and a lot of people didn't have the endorsements. I think endorsements do help when you are not following the elections. Having said all this, is that I think when you, Kurt Smith, who had a lot of groups out there, and a lot of grassroots, I think one of the things with Hardman was that he said this, then he didn't say this, and he said that, and it didn't say that. And I think it's in some cases he was classified as some of those cartoons and some of those ads as a flip-flopper.
You know, I just don't. I think the bases kind of dug their heels in well before any of that even happened. I mean, I see what you're saying, but I really just think this came down to turnout, and I really do believe that Ivey's and everyone in this county, Wayne Ivey is the celebrity of Brevard. And as soon as he gave Barfield that stamp of approval, that was at least 3 to 5%.
In a close election, this endorsement pulled out for Jim Barfield.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jim
can I be
Barfield
honest?
should be putting a statue of Wayne Ivey in his front lawn.
Let me be totally honest. I don't think that the going after the EDC hurt Hartman.
Oh wait.
I don't think going after all these other. I mean, because most.
I think it helped Hartman. I think
it did help Hartman because most government workers do not vote in a Republican primary.
Right.
And what I'm getting at is, I think when it's this close of a race, I mean, if you really want to break it down, I think you're right. I think it was the endorsement, and why not? It's 300 votes. Yeah.
I mean, Wayne Ivey could have run in the Republican primary for governor and beaten Rick Scott in Brevard.
Do the endorsements translate into a victory in 2014 general election?
Oh gosh, that's. You mean for Barfield? Absolutely. I mean.
No, I mean for these races in the general election.
Well, what level are we talking about now?
General election. I know.
I'm
Whatever,
talking about
I'm not trying to break it down.
What race?
Any of these races.
Absolutely. I mean, for Brevard County, this is a very conservative county. So, now the only one I do think now that looks like Barfield's going to win this, you're going to think I'm crazy. I'm telling you to watch out for Smink because
no, you don't have Fat Elvis doesn't have a prayer.
You don't think so?
Well, I mean, the question is this is how you break it down. Are the Marka Hartman people ticked off at Jim Barfield? Okay, let's say they are. Does that mean they're going to come out and vote for Smink?
Oh.
That's possible. But what about Ron Taylor? What about Chuck Sheridan? I mean, you can't say that every vote for Michael Hartman is going to go towards Jack Smink.
There's more to it than that. You have an independent vote. Smink's going to get the majority of them, and he's also going to get Democrats who are fighting to spite Republicans.
That's right. So my question is the Hartman people, are they going to vote for Jim Barfield?
I don't think, not enthusiastically.
I mean, you got to remember, folks, of all these votes, it doesn't mean that you break bread with this guy. Some of these votes, hey, the guy knocked on my door, I'm going to vote for him. And there's a good 35% that do that.
I think a lot of them just stay at home because Michael Hartman, of all the local candidates, I would say maybe other than Tim Street and Miller, had the most passionate following, most passionate fan base. And there's going to be a lot that have just a bitter taste in their mouth and just sit at home.
I think Barfield will win the general.
I think he will, but I think Smink could get as high as 40%.
Well, that's it's a given.
Well, okay. I didn't think you thought it was a given earlier.
No, you said 35, and you called that one pretty much with Monique. By the way,
Right.
Monique Miller is getting slaughtered by Thad Altman. Again, if the all aboard Florida was just as bad as an issue, remember Thad was out there running ads saying, hey, I got nothing to do with this, which is technically true. I think if she would have come in a year earlier, I think the race would be much closer. But it's just not going to happen that way.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, Election Coverage Central here on 1300 WMEL. Again, our partners at SpaceCoastDaily.com, SpaceCoastDaily.com. I want to thank Tom Palermo, Giles Malone, our good friend Matt O'Hearn, who is the political editor, John in the back room, taking care of all this. As you can go to SpaceCoastDaily.com/election, SpaceCoastDaily.com/election to watch us live on the air.
Only 8 precincts in the whole county left.
What really surprised me about this election is how come, for example, countywide or county commission, there wasn't more city council people from Cocoa Beach, more city council people from Cocoa, from Rockledge. I mean, with all due respect, and I'm not throwing Barfield or Hartman under the bus, but at least we're with the, quote, credible candidates, Matt O'Hearn. You don't have to like Greg Jones, but at least Greg Jones on the experience front came across as a credible candidate.
I think some of them may have just said, you know what, I'll wait till 2016 when I...
And then they're going to wait till 2018 and wait till 2020.
Well, you got to look at 2016. I think it's much easier to forecast than when you're in a midterm, and it's easier to fundraise because people are excited about the presidential. So maybe that's why. Just throwing that theory out there.
Oh, boy, yeah, the Jim Barfield leads has definitely increased. There's no way that Michael Hartman's going to be to make that up.
What's it up to now? Let's see.
It's actually tightened up slightly, but it's still a 300 vote lead.
Yeah,
right on the nose.
Yeah, there's no way he's going to tighten that up.
Close that with only 2 precincts left to.
And Kurt Smith, that's a done race. You can call Kurt Smith your new county commissioner.
So let's talk. Absolutely. You want to talk about the implications of that? Now you have Smith replacing. Sorry, I'm going blank here. Bolin Lewis, who was let's just be generous. She was moderate. And then we have Barfield coming in. It's going to be viewed much more moderately than...
He'll keep the status quo. That's what's been said.
Barfield should be pretty similar to Chuck Sheridan.
Nelson.
Or Nelson, I'm sorry.
But well, you have to look at it this way, though. There's definitely going to be times where he sides with Smith and Infantini and Anderson, and that changes. I mean, before, Infantini would be ganged up on 4-1.
You know what this does? As I said before, the main election... That's going to be the really big one. It's going to be 2016. Fisher, Trudy, and Anderson are all term limited.
Right.
Those are going to be some big races.
That could just swing it right back around. Yeah.
Well, it hasn't swing back around to what we saw when.
Well, I mean, right now you have to look at this as it was essentially a lot of times it was 4 against 1 with Trudy as the only dissenting.
So you think this is a 3-2 in favor of conservatives?
More often than not.
Okay, I agree with you on that one.
Not all the time, but I think more often than not, Barfield will go with the conservative vote.
So
I disagree. Just from what I've seen about Jim Barfield, I think he's going to.
You think he's going to go majority liberal? I don't think so.
I think he's going to be more like the incumbent in that race.
Well,
or not the incumbent, but the commissioner.
He'll be similar, but I don't think. I think he'll be a little bit more conservative.
You know what'll be interesting to watch
is
how
see.
Andy Anderson responds.
Right.
Because
Who will he
Anderson
align with?
originally aligned with Trudy Infantini, but as those 3-2 votes started to stack up against him, he started switching more and more to siding with the rest of the commission and turning those 3-2 votes into 4-1 votes. It'll be very interesting to see if he sees a shift in the political winds and decides, you know what, I'm going to side with Trudy Infantini and I'm going to side with Kurt Smith and we'll make this a conservative commission again.
Well, I tell you what this does. It opens up a boatload of candidates to run. For example, Tim Street losing. For John Tabaya, you'll see a half a dozen guys, possibly credible guys, running in that race. It's going to be a boatload of guys running for Trudy Infantini. In fact, there's rumors out there that John Tabaya wants to run for that seat because he's term limited out there. Scott Ellis, by the way, can you tell me all the endorsements that Scott Ellis did and all the guys that wanted that seat? Very few to none. I mean, did he endorse Kurt Smith? I mean, maybe Hartman should have put endorsed by Scott Ellis on some of his stuff. I mean, Monique Miller got killed with the Ellis endorsements out there. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know what Hartman could have pulled that would have trumped Wayne Ivey, though. I really don't.
I agree.
Yeah. I'm not sure what's going on with the page right now, but everything is 0%.
The Supervisor of Elections website for Brevard County is...
Oh, she won't like that. She won't like the criticism.
It appears to be trying to pull in results from another county.
Yes.
Well,
and it's drawing all zeros instead. I don't know what happened.
The bottom line is, what are we looking at, guys? What do you think? Was it 20%, 21% of voter turnout?
It looked like it was closing, or it looked like it was going to be over 22%.
Listen,
I was guessing
not by
25.
much.
I was guessing 25%. What were you guessing?
Well, Vince, hold on. Pull that back up, Vince. What you had on your screen. You're
those
no,
were the
right there,
numbers-
right there.
Yeah, those were the numbers as of 7 p.m.
82,000.
Here's 750.
2 years ago, it was 86,000.
But that was presidential. Let's make that clear.
No, this is the primary.
Hang on a second.
This is the primary election. There's a different numbers there. That remember, you had a lot of people running for judge. That if all these judicial candidates had not been up there, it might have been a low voter turnout. School board was somewhat high, but the question is every year they keep going down, and yet we have a supervisor of elections that keeps predicting voter turnouts and absentees and everything else. And I think this changes the models and how we're going to predict some of this stuff. It's kind of like the weather out there. So we will be on radio from 8 to possibly 9 o'clock. The supervisor of elections in Brevard County's page is like dark. It's like something's taken over. We will get final numbers here in a little bit. Our good friends at SpaceCoastDaily.com, SpaceCoastDaily.com are here in the studios with us. You can go to SpaceCoastDaily.com/election to watch us live on the air. Kevin Derby from the SunshineStateNews.com is also going to join us on what we've seen with some of the returns and what has taken place, not only here in Brevard, but through the rest of the state. Charlie Crist walks away easily with beating Nan Rich. And again, is this a precursor when you look at some of these issues of what's going to be turnout coming up in November? And Matt O'Hearn, if I'm thinking it's a low voter turnout in the primary,
right?
You know what?
That's
it's going to be a low voter turnout in the general.
That's good news for Rick Scott.
You think so?
Well, think about it. Which side's going to turn out even less?
But then again, there was not marijuana on the initiative.
Well, but I'm saying even with that, let's say
I think the numbers jump up.
Let's say the numbers will jump up, but for both sides, I think. Don't you think? Pretty much even.
Pretty much, but the numbers
still
go up
have
overall.
Well, I guess it really depends.
It's going to be on turnout.
Right, regional part of the state too.
All right, here we are, set, ready to go. Second hour of election coverage out there. Vince Young, Matt O'Hearn from SpaceCoastDaily.com, Ed Dean here from the Ed Dean Radio Show, and from the SunshineStateNews.com. Also at the top of the hour, Kevin Derby, all coming your way. Back in a few moments, right here on WMEL.